let's talk about the moment when things fall apart between you and your child, what therapists call a rupture, a break or a disconnect in the relationship between you both. Now, as parents, most of us are walking around with a quiet assumption, which is that we know better, that our perspective is the more valid one simply because we're older, we're more experienced, and we're in charge. And in many ways, that is true. As adults, we do have more perspective. We can see that the blue cup or the squashed sandwich isn't worth screaming over. But the reality is, our children don't live in our perspective, they live in theirs. And from where they're standing, with no real life experience, no power to control their environment, and an enormous dependency on you, something like not getting to choose can feel absolutely devastating. And it's not just about the moment itself, there are layers to this, because they rely on you for everything. And they're aware, consciously or not, that you don't always come through. And I include myself in this as a parent. We're late, we're distracted, we forget things, we have to say no, we put other things first. And of course, from an adult point of view, of course we need to do these things. We've got so many things to do and we're pulled in lots of different directions at once, and we have to make trade-offs and we have to make decisions that we think probably will be the best for everybody in the long run. But our children don't have a developed sense of our limitations. In their eyes, your children look at you as the all-powerful provider, the one who could say yes. And when you don't, then, well, it must be on purpose. And that hurts. It hurts in a way that they don't have the language for. It hurts in a way that says, if you could give me what I need and you didn't, then maybe I'm not worth it. And that belief doesn't form in words, it forms in the nervous system. So what do they do with that pain? Well, sometimes they explode like a volcano, and sometimes they shut down behind an impenetrable wall. Sometimes they cry and rage and tell you about their own heartbreak in real time. And here you are, a human being, trying to hold the emotional weather of someone who has no filter, no self-control, and no capacity to understand you yet. And this is one of the reasons why parenting can feel so intense, because you've got two people, both convinced that their perspective is valid, both emotionally activated, and only one of them has any real power, and that person is you. But the paradox is that even though you have the power, you might not have the capacity, because you're tired, you're emotionally flooded, you're holding 12 other things in your head and you haven't eaten since breakfast, because you're human. So when that rupture happens, when that disconnect occurs, it's not a sign that you failed. It's a sign that two nervous systems have collided under stress without enough scaffolding. So the work then is not to avoid those moments when things fall apart, when there's a disconnection. It's to get really good at coming back, at repairing the relationship. Because repair is a skill that makes all the difference, not just to your child's sense of safety, but to their ability to learn how to be in relationships, how to own mistakes, how to come back to connection after disconnection. And it's also good for you too, because it gives you the confidence of knowing that even when those obstacles, those disruptions happen, you know how to make things safe again, to reconnect. But the crucial part is that repair has to come from the adult, from you, because your child doesn't know how yet. And the longer they go without being taught, the more likely they are to internalize shame or defensiveness or fear. Repair isn't just love, it's leadership. Now, let's be honest, repair sounds very lovely, but in the moment, it's a little bit more difficult because to repair, you need to emotionally regulate yourself while holding space for your children, and also to be willing to give up the need to be right for the sake of your relationship. And that's a level of skill that most of us weren't taught. Many of us didn't grow up in households where adults apologized or named their own reactivity. Many of us were shamed or silenced or ignored when we were hurt. So when we try to do something different with our kids, something gentle, honest, and connected, we're working without a template. And of course, that feels hard. Of course, we lose our footing sometimes. But just know that every time you choose to come back together, even if it's messy, even if it's late, you're changing the story and you're offering your child something any of us never got. And that in itself is repair.